2022 been a phenomenal year for rap. If you don't think so, you probably been listening to the wrong stuff, but don't even worry about that. We finna put you on today. It was so good, I almost went with a top 50, but at 25, give me a little plausible deniability. So if I just straight up miss a project, I can pretend I had it right outside my 25. Try to keep it as subjective as possible, so I went with the best and not necessarily my favorite projects from the year. Cause unlike the Grammys or the complex list, I actually want my list to mean something. So at 25, I got Bodie James and Nicholas Craven, Fair Exchange, No Robbery. Craven's production on this project was close to flawless. The beats were minimal, but the samples he used were gorgeous. Hopefully Bodie bought Craven an expensive Christmas gift, because Craven definitely put the team on his back on this one. If Bodie would have just brought his B+ game on this project, this would have been a lot higher. 24, I got Ransom's No Rest for the Wicked, bar for bar, some of the best rapping of the year. Ransom's a master when it comes to the complex multi-syllabic rapping. Then the punchlines were crazy from start to finish. This project as well would be a lot higher if Ransom didn't have this toxic off and on relationship with good production. The production was all over the place on this one, but the rapping alone was good enough to put this top 25. 23 is Pusha T's It's Almost Dry. This project and the Ransom project before is like reciprocal fractions, because on this one the production was excellent. The instrumentals were everything you'd expect from a project produced by Kanye and Pharrell. It does have some bright spots lyrically, but overall the rapping was just pretty good. My top 25 list probably got enough cult rap to start flaking, so in comparison to some of the other rapping on this list, I gotta put this one a notch lower as terms as pure lyricism, but the album was still dope. See what I did there? 23 is Mont Homie's Dollar Menu 4. And Mont Homie's projects in 2022 went as far as the guy Fahim would take him, because he was heavily featured on every single project. It was like you inviting a girl over and she just insists on bringing her friend too. Thankfully on this project, Fahim delivered his best rapping of the year. Mock showed why lyrically I think he's the best rapper on the planet. He just does things from a technical standpoint that I've literally never heard from any other rapper. Also love the muddy, wobbly production from Sidle Gold and also from Wino Willie, who's slowly becoming one of my favorite producers. Then at 21, we got Freddie Gibbs with Soul Soul Separately. Sonically, this is one of the most cohesive albums on this list. The instrumentals captured that retro SSS Hotel aesthetic perfectly, and you could tell they put a lot of effort into this project. Speaking of effort, they probably should have put a little less effort in chasing a hit, because that was honestly the biggest thing that held this album back. I think it took Gibbs several songs to get in his signature flows and his gritty storytelling, but once he did, the album was really up. Number 20, I got Elzhi and Georgia Ann Muldrow's Zeitgeist. I don't know too much about Georgia Ann, but I know for a fact she uses cocoa butter. Her production and vocals are super soulful, and I also like that ethereal, spacey vibe that she gives her instrumentals. Elzhi's slick brags, his clever one-liners, and his ability to move effortlessly from one complex rhyme scheme to the other makes for some of the best rapping of the year. Pros and Cons were also one of the best concept songs of the year. 19, I got DJ Muggs and Riggs' Gold. Easily some of the best music that'll scare the females. Honestly, if this doesn't scare her, you should probably be scared, because it probably means she's more gangster than you. Muggs is back to his roots on this one because the production sounded like it was straight out of the 90s. Probably the best boom bap production of the year. And then Riggs is quietly one of the best rappers in this neo-mafioso lane. His street talk is as good as anyone's, and he has his super witty wordplay laced throughout all his bars. 18, I got Bodie James and Real Bad Man's Killing Nothing. If Pusha T's music is Code Dealing 101, Killing Nothing is Code Dealing 501. This is an upper level masterclass of coke rap, full of vivid storytelling, clever wordplay, and some of the best lyricism from Bodie James to date. I rock with the eerie dynamic production for Real Bad Man. It's not the craziest production Bodie's ever rapped on, but it's pretty good. Then at 17, I got Lloyd Banks, The Course of the Inevitable 2. 50 Cent clearly must have been holding this nigga back, because Lloyd Banks ain't never rapped like this on G Unit. This nigga be rapping now. Lloyd Banks still got that punching ability that he's been known for, but now he's so cold with the technical rapping that he might just be an alien. He's super cerebral with each syllable. Every bar is drenched in multis, plus he has some really dope flows. The production here was cool, but it was really the rapping that was front and center, and it made for a great project. Then at 16, I got Billy Wood's Church. Now that I get to this project, I have no idea why early in this list I singled out one particular project as scared of female music. And this whole list will probably do that. In this project in particular, this might scare the homies. The production here is abstract, chaotic, and then mix that on top of the fact that Billy Woods has his really out-of-the-box, unorthodox delivery. Somehow, though, it still feels more accessible than Billy Woods' other album from this year. Lyrically, this is another reminder that Billy Woods is the best abstract rapper on the planet and one of the best rappers, period. The way that he packs so much emotion into his storytelling is really impressive. The lyrics here are laced with these themes of heartbreak, fear, emptiness, hopelessness, and of course, as the name would suggest, faith. Now, this is the part of the video where people start getting a little triggered because they hear their favorite album a little bit earlier than they think they should. Starting out with number 15, Ransom and V-Don's Chaos is My Ladder. And honestly, this is a great album that would be top 10 in most years. But this ain't most years. I will say though, this is arguably Ransom's best album. Somehow his rapping sounds even more possessed than it did on No Rest for the Wicked. I mean, on top of the lyricism, you get a bar of the year type punch on almost every single track. The opener, All In, is one of the craziest tracks of the year. V-Don's murky production is a huge upgrade over Ransom's in-house producers in my opinion. And this is honestly probably the best set of beats Ransom's rapped on outside of his Nicholas Craven and Big Ghost joints. 14 is Cos Language Arts Woeful Studies. This is kind of cheating because this is two separate albums, but I'm gonna lump them together because one, they came out on the same day, and two, and most importantly, other niggas started lumping them together first. But yeah, this album is like the Thug Life Blues. I honestly didn't know it was so many metaphors for the struggle. Kai's rhyme schemes alone are dense, but then his wordplay makes the lyrics even more dense. He'll go entire verses where nearly every single line has an entendre in them. Lyrically, this is one of the best albums of the year, probably top 3 or 4. Sonically, there's absolutely no frills with it. Kai's delivery is completely dejected and his pacing is pretty similar to like spoken word. The beats are minimal to the point where they're borderline acoustic. I don't think any of those things are necessarily bad, but it is gonna make the album inaccessible for some. Straight up masterclass in lyricism though. Then the next top 10 casualty is Con With The Machines, God Don't Make Mistakes at 13. Grimy, gut-wrenching, emotional. Conway really leveled up his approach with this album. He still sounds menacing over spookier beats like John Woo Flick or Lock Low, but he also sounds great over more polished beats like he did on From King to a God. Then he has these really vulnerable moments on songs like the title track that make this his most personal album to date. Con even showed off the versatility more rapping over a pretty experimental beat on the song Babbas. I will say the most impressive feat for this whole album is he got a half-decent poem out of Keisha Plum. Number 12, it's the top 10 casualty that hurt me the most. Number 12 is Rome Streets Kiss the Ring. Yeah, this is a list of my favorites. This will probably be top 3. I think bar for bar, Rome Streets is the best rapper in Griselda outside of Mount Homie, and that's saying a lot. Man, the way he can manipulate these multi-syllable rhyme schemes would make Doom shed a tear. He can get caught up in having the same flow a little bit, but I love the flow switch up on Serving. I love the storytelling on Long Story Short. Nice switch of pace for the album. Production on this thing was fire, especially from Conductor Williams, who I think was the best producer in 2022. Ugly Balenciagas and Reversible had 2 of the best beats of the year. Matter of fact, Reversible is just one of the best songs of the year, period, for me. This album would probably be top 5, and it would have just trimmed a little bit of the fat off of it. And then 11, we got Bodie James and Future Waves, Mr. 1008. Look, y'all one step closer to realizing this is really just a Griselda channel in a regular channel body. Not gonna lie though, I was pretty shocked that Bodie James' third project of the year had this much quality to it. Bodie James rapping was the best he's rapped all year. The level of detail in his coat stories is still on par with like a George R.R. Martin book. But then to add on the intricate wordplay for every song, plus he had razor sharp rhyme structure throughout, then the production from Future Wave was crazy. The beat sound like dude was off straight Adderalls and mushrooms when he produced this. The spacey, maximal beats from Future Wave made the production here stand out from any other production in this now crowded subgenre of coke rap, and it still complemented Bodie's style really well. I wouldn't quite call this experimental, but the beats were definitely out of the box with some really well-placed modulations, some eclectic samples. The song Disco Fever is a perfect example of this. Super consistent as well. No real weak points for me on this one. Then number 10, I got Nas's King's Disease 3. Nas and Hit Boy got something special. It might not be LeBron and Wade chemistry, but it's at least LeBron and Kyrie in 2018 chemistry. Nas has really found his voice as a 30-year vet in hip-hop. His lyrical content has aged just as gracefully as his lyricism itself. He's able to rap effortlessly about his street upbringing, but he's able to do so with a really mature perspective. And that skill plays right into the excellent storytelling that was on display in this album. The imagery is super vivid, especially on those tracks where he's reminiscing back on that Queensbridge childhood. At times, this album felt like flashbacks to the Illmatic era part of his life. You got songs like Thun that come off like lyrical hood movies, you know, Boys in the Hood, the musical, if you will. The song Beef has a really memorable concept, and the biggest accomplishment of this whole project from Nas might be that he managed to make a song called WTF SMH Fire, despite all the childish acronyms he used in the chorus. Hit Boy's production was dope, and quick side note, Hit Boy's an awful name. I guess I'm gonna start my rap career and call myself Bars Man. The fact fact that he's had a successful career despite that dumb name is just a testament of his talent in and of itself. But anyway, Hit Boy was versatile when it came to the aesthetic for each track. The production felt really dynamic with how well placed each beat change and modulation was. I think Nas's old nigginess is also rubbing off on Hit Boy. He had some really soulful cuts on that first half of the album, some of the best produced tracks on the whole album, and overall they combined for their best project to date. And then at number 9, I got Lupe Fiasco's Drill Music in Zion. And they probably should make Lupe testify in front of Congress in order to figure out what kind of supernatural powers he's using to have made this album in only 3 days. Yeah, the way Lupe's brain work is just insane. The way that he's able to turn literally anything into a concept is proof that this dude is either genius or crazy. Like, for example, he uses hand gestures to describe street beef on the song Precious Things. He uses mall kiosks as a metaphor for materialism on the song Kiosk. Then the song Miss Mural is one of those vintage Lupe Fiasco brilliant extended metaphors where he'll take one concept as an analogy to tackle something even bigger. But even when there isn't a complex concept to a particular song, his stream of consciousness rapping is elite as well, with clever wordplay, thought-provoking lines, and everything strung together with these really elaborate rhyme schemes. The closing track on Phonem is one of the most memorable tracks of the year, large part because of that first verse. The album doesn't have the best production on this list, but it does have some bright spots, especially on that last third of the album. Number 8, I got Benny the Butcher's Tana Talk 4. Yeah, y'all think it's a lot of Griselda projects this year? Y'all better pray they don't drop 25 projects next year. But while we hear, what really drew me towards Griselda is they had a level of lyricism that for the last several years was almost reserved for just the real abstract backpacker type rap. Shoot, you might as well call them backpacker. They just ain't have CDs and cassettes in the backpack. They had that work in the book bag. But they had that lyricism plus that 90s era golden age grittiness. And Tana Talk 4 itself embodies all those qualities that drew me to this sound. Benny's back rapping up that grimy, sinister, Derringer and Alchemist production. And bar for bar, this is some of Benny's best rapping today. Then if you ignore Diddy, who was utterly pointless, the feature shot 100% from the field on this one. You got Cole fans pretending he spit the best verse in hip-hop history. You got super charismatic verses from Stove God Cooks and Westside Gun. A crazy back and forth between Benny and 38 Special. This album's tough. Is it better than Tana Talk 3? Probably not, but I gotta say it's not far off, and that in and of itself is impressive. So number 7, I got Little Simz, No Thank You. Not to commit hip-hop blasphemy, but No Thank You is Little Simz to Pimp a Butterfly to her Good Kid, Mad City, which was her Sometimes I Might Be an Introvert project last year, where Sometimes I Might Be Introvert is a biographical look into her past and how it shaped who she is as a person, where No Thank You tackles her newfound status and how the money and the fame never addressed those insecurities that she had. Outside of the laid-back opener, which was a straight-up bait and switch, the instrumentals felt huge. Maximal production, triumphant instrument and vocals, and these really intentional shifts in the beats. Whether it was an added layer in the harmonization, a modulation in the beat, or a straight-up beat change, the production rarely stayed in one place. It was like it was constantly maneuvering to match whatever mood Simz was giving with her raps. Then the lyrics were just as grand as the production. The content of most songs was emotionally heavy to the point where some of these songs start feeling like ballads, especially songs like Heart on Fire, X, Broken. Then add to the fact that Simz' technical rapping is really elite. Phenomenal project, and this project is like Alabama football this year. It would have finished top 4 most years. Number 6, I got Denzel Curry's Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. For an album that dives so deeply into themes like isolation, past trauma, and death, this thing got bangers. Yeah, this is really a complete package of an album. Sonically, it sounds amazing, and it uses a wide range of beats. Yeah, live instrumentation and vocals on songs like Melt Session Number 1 and Mental. Straight up trap bangers on songs like X-Wings. Then you got songs that do both within the same track, like Ain't No Way and Walking. Speaking of Walking, that's one of the best tracks of the year. That modulation where they changed up the drums mid-song is one of several memorable switches in the beat on this project. Hey, and Denzel was on one when it came to the rapping. Zell is 101 when it comes to the flows. Well, maybe 1 or 2 because the dude won't finna name in a few minutes. But nonetheless, dude got some of the most buttery flows in the game. His punching ability is top tier too, and like I alluded to earlier, he did a phenomenal job with the introspection and tackling some of the heavier topics. I love how this project is conceptualized as this big therapy session or melt session. I also think it's Curry's best project. Now, since we've been talking about music that'll scare the females, this is the Michael Myers of scaring the women away. Number 5 is Billy Wood's Atheos. This is a wild project. Look, at the album Church isn't enough to convince you that Billy Woods is the best abstract rapper right now. This should do it. Conceptually, this project is genius. The concept is Billy Woods walking through this history museum, and with each exhibit, Woods uses it to either weave in his own personal experience or to talk about society as a whole. Like on the song No Hard Feeling, he uses this metaphor of a black astronaut in space as an analogy for a black man in America. Then Billy Woods' storytelling is brilliant. Then the way that he ties everything together, it's like staring at an abstract painting and slowly being able to form an image from it. Because the bars themselves seem really left field, but as the track progresses, the picture of what he's expressing in the song gets clearer and clearer. Then Woods' delivery here is even more dynamic than it was on Church. Woods is frantic at times, straight up yelling at times. Then he has this monk-like awareness on the pacing of his delivery. Then as eclectic as Woods is with his performance, Preservation matches the energy with the production. A lot of the beats feel less like instrumentals and more like the score to a movie. Then the beats themselves are super left field. If you're into experimental, that second beat on the song Harlem is just pure insanity. Then at number 4, I got Rock Marciano and Alchemist, the Elephant Man's Bones. Man, y'all watch out, because if I talk about this project too long, I'm gonna start spinning bars. I'm gonna let you know right now. This neo boom bap mafioso coat rap lame is full of some of the best spitters in the world, as you can tell from this list. But Rock's rapping on this project was just on another level than any other project in this subgenre, and that's saying a lot. The pen game was insane, especially on that second half of the album. You can keep a spare in the trunk with a jack, lift you up a tad, broad the ass, but I'm not a lumberjack. Your brain's flat all over your trucker hat, pushing drugs, we can have a shoving match. Man, let me chill. The rhyme schemes are incredible. He'll have these lines where nearly every single syllable rhymes. Then he'll take the rhyme schemes from the end of one bar, use as the internal rhyme on the next bar. Then matter of fact, his internal rhymes overall is just fire because he uses them to seamlessly move from one rhyme scheme to the next. Then he'll spaz out with these alliteration where he just spam a particular vowel sound for multiple lines. And the cadences are crazy. Man, I'm off Rock now. No rehab. See, I'm just in a bars type mood. See, the only issue I had with this project was it felt like Alchemist didn't take the training wheels off. The production was good. It was more so that Al just came into Rock Marcy's lane, leaned towards a mellow, drumless sound. It's still one of the better produced projects on this list, and that's just a testament to how talented Alchemist is as a producer. So I think a few people expected more from this album, especially on the production side. But if you just take this project for what it is at face value, it's one of the best projects in Rock Marcy's discography. It's one of the best projects of the year. At number 3, we got Jizz, The Forever Story. Dog, Jid is so talented, he probably could have just made an album about his favorite brunch spots in Atlanta, and it still probably would have topped this list. Matter of fact, his album right before this, DiCaprio 2, had very little conceptual or thematic focus. It was just straight bars, and it was still one of the best projects of 2018. So when you take that raw talent and mix it with elite storytelling and some of Jid's most personal and introspective songs to date, you get an album that's pushing classic territory. Now, Jid's performance on this thing was otherworldly. And when it kind of flows, Jid got that L1, R1, square R1, left, R2. You feel me? He got that unlimited ammo cheat code when it comes to the flows. And it ain't just a flow by itself. He's mastered using rhyme schemes to accent certain syllables in his lines. He gets a ton of Kendrick comparisons, and rightfully so, but it honestly feels a little Under 3000-esque in my opinion. Jid's wordplay is special too. The way that he'll take a word or part of a word from one line, flip the meaning, then use it to start the next line has become like a signature for him. Take the closing song Louder 2, for example, where he just spazzes out with that style. I alluded to the storytelling, it's dope throughout, but the storytelling on the song Crack Sandwich, better than a Harry Potter book. The fact that Jid can get conceptual without sacrificing any of the lyricism created some stellar standouts too. Cody Blue 31 is one of the most emotional tracks of the year, as is Sister Them, where he described the complex relationship with his sister, and Better Days, a tribute to his homie who's locked up. Free him. You know, he has some moments on here where you might have to shed a little thug tear. Then the song Stars isn't as emotionally heavy, but I love how he tackled stardom on that song. Just very few flaws from this album, and a phenomenal album overall. Number 2, I got Black Thought and Danger Mouse Cheat Codes. Look, if a gun's to your head and they say you got to pick one rapper to spit a fire 16, and if it ain't fire, they're gonna act out a battle rap lyric on your head top, you better pick Black Thought. Dude just ain't capable of spitting a bad verse. Then the pairing with him and Danger Mouse is just perfect. Like more perfect than how your AirPods pair with your phone when you first get them. You know, before the quality start going down the drain in a couple of months. The track list on this project is close to flawless, both from the rapping and the production side of things. The beats are sample heavy, maximal. They range from dark to soulful. Lyrically, Black Thought does some black magic wizardry when it comes to the rhyme schemes. And then in the first half of the album, he fleshes out this concept of growing up disadvantaged lives in the hood and resorting to hustling or rap as the cheat codes to make it out. That title track, Cheat Codes, embodies this concept the most. The opener leans on a lot of historical activist imagery to paint this narrative of inequality in America, and he does it over this super soulful vocal sample. And the features are all great, but no one was more special than the disgusting MF Doom verse on the song Believes. The verse was probably a leftover from Doom and Danger Mouse's project from 2005 because it sounded like prime Doom and the pairing was just perfect. It sounded as good as anything from that project. Black Thought pretty much abandons that cheat code concept on the second half of the album, but the quality of that second half doesn't change. Aquamarine is one of the best songs of the year. I love the dreamlike storytelling and instrumental on Identical Deaths. Then you got some crazy sparring with Black Thought, Run the Jewels, and ASAP Rocky out of all people who managed to hold his own. This is another album with no real weak points. This album would be album of the year in most years, but there's one project in the way of that. But before I get into that, which, I mean, it probably should be obvious at this point, as if this video wasn't long enough, got a couple honorable mentions. Just couldn't help myself. First, I got Euro Drugs, Yachty Dangerfield. Yachty done dropped 6 projects this year. Bro out here working like 12 months a slave. Bro was punching out his mind on this project though. That Alex Baldwin line on the opening track may be the bar of the year. Next, I got Mock Homies, Dump God, Tris Nathaniel. The album had excellent rapping and phenomenal production from Conductor Williams. But at 4 songs, a little over 10 minutes, I just couldn't justify putting it on the list. Then I got Black Stars, No Fear Time. Piss poor rollout. I feel like I'm rewarding bad behavior for even mentioning it, but Yasin Bey and Talib still got it. Free these mad little beats. They're sick and they do not deserve to be stuck on some no-name podcast platform. And with that, my 2022 album of the year is Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Not only is this album of the year, I think this is the best album in the last several years. The concept behind this album is so grand, so well executed that it elevates the entire project. It's one of those cases where the album itself is greater than the sum of each individual song. But don't get me wrong, even if you just isolate every single individual song and disregard the bigger concept, this album would still be amazing. For one, it's the most well-produced project of the entire year. The production takes from a huge array of different hip-hop aesthetics and it brings them together for something that's really boundary pushing. The soundscape of this album is something I ain't heard nothing like. United in Grief has these lively pianos before it completely spirals into this chaotic drum pattern. N95 has these heavy bling era synths. Crown sounds amazing and only has a single piano. Then the song Savior is the best beat of the year and probably the best beat Kendrick Lamar's ever rapped on. The beat is maximalism on steroids. It has probably about 10 different layers of vocals, a live piano that drops in and out, disgusting 808s, and the drum patterns in reverse. Then shockingly to me, Kendrick embraced that Griselda sound on the Alchemist produced We Cry Together. And then speaking of, that's one of the most well executed concept songs in recent memory. Kendrick and Taylor Page go back and forth in this volatile, explosive shouting match. The song is a masterpiece that should be in the Toxic Nigga Museum right beside the life-size statue of Future. Auntie Diaries and Father Time are 2 more concept songs executed to perfection. Count Me Out is one of the best songs of the year. The storytelling is phenomenal, both on the gut-wrenching Mother I Sober and on the outrageous Worldwide Steppers. Silent Hill is a banger. I can keep going, and that's before we even get into the conceptual brilliance on this project. The most surface level concept is the duality between the Big Steppers, which is Kendrick Lamar running from his trauma, mostly by way of his lust addiction or his savior complex. Then Kendrick confronting trauma head on the Mr. Morale side. Then if you peel the album back a layer, you see it's a series of therapy sessions. Peel it back another layer, you'll realize this album is presented as a stage play with narrations, interludes, live instrumentation. Matter of fact, I mentioned how sprawling the instrumentals were, but sonically it sounds cohesive because with very few exceptions, pretty much every song is going to feature a choir or a piano either in the forefront or the background. So just like what you hear in a musical. Yeah, y'all niggas ain't peeped that. But keep going, peel it back more, you'll find this whole mirroring thing. To keep it above with y'all, I think the biggest thing this album suffers from is Coming Out the Good Kid, Mad City, and To Pimp a Butterfly. Take those 2 albums out of the equation, I think there would be a consensus on the greatness of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. But since this album isn't better than those 2 projects, I think a lot of people are going to see this as Kendrick Lamar's 3rd best album, as opposed to the classic that I think it is. But I think like with most Kendrick Lamar projects, as the dust settles and time passes, the appreciation is only going to grow. So that's my list. Let me know your top 10s, 20s, 100s? If you got a top 100, I will pin it in the comments, even if it's trash. Click this playlist right here. I have reactions to almost all the projects I mentioned on this list. Hurry up before the video ends and YouTube autoplays a random video. Y'all have a blessed new year.